Welcome to Story Players, the podcast where a couple of people who work on and enjoy video games talk about stuff in the games industry as a nice little time capsule for you to enjoy. And I will be your host for this week. I am Zachary Snader, studio head over at Wildkind, and I am joined, as always, by my good friend Buddy. Buddy, how you doing?
How you doing? Doing good.
Should I introduce you more formally, or do you want to introduce yourself?
No, that's good.
All right,
that's fine. I was kind of smirking because no, that was great. Good job. I'm kind of smirking because we always you're like welcome to Story Players, the podcast where we never really know how to introduce the podcast.
I want to never script it and just always be really tenuous about how I start this thing. I think that'll be fun.
It'll evolve. It's just like the podcast where we're not quite sure either, but thanks for clicking it.
We do talk about video games though. And
that's the important part to get out of the way. We're talking about video games for the most part, especially my topic today. The topic will be about video games.
Oh, that's good. Mine is as well. I guess it is important to mention that we bring. See, that's what I should mention in the intro. I should just have little bullet points. We each bring a topic each week to the table that we don't know what the other person's going to say, and then we talk about it for a bit.
It's as simple as that. Yeah.
Simple as that.
And it ends up being fun.
It does end up being fun.
Like a show. It's a show and tell.
I enjoy it. Cool. Should I go first? I know we generally do that, but I don't know. Depends how confident you're feeling about your topic this week. Or how much you want to.
No, let's let you go first still, because I'm always unconfident.
All right.
About how long we can stretch my topic, because my topic's pretty simple.
And yet we talked about Stellar Blade costumes for 40 minutes the other week.
Yeah, it's still a hot topic.
Man, I don't even well, yeah, I mean now it very much is, because the game's actually out, I think.
Yeah,
right?
Well, I think it had released when I brought it up last time.
I think it released.
Go back and listen to last week's episode if you're interested in hearing about our thoughts on Asian
naked
games,
robots
starring women. Yeah, because it's going to be something you don't expect.
Exactly.
Yeah, so actually, lay it on us. Lay the topic on us.
Lay it on us. All right. So
you had 2 weeks to think about it.
I had 2 weeks to think about it, and it came to me this morning. So perfect.
Oh, perfect. That's how I do mine as well.
Awesome. I mean, I guess I kind of started thinking about it 2 weeks ago, honestly, but anyway,
unimportant.
Did you know that there is a television show based on the video game series Fallout?
Yes.
Okay. That's great.
Let's move on to my topic now.
We did it.
I actually heard about that. My friend, I think he's our friend Gaylord. He just sent me the link to the trailer, and I was like, this is going to be awful. It looks bad. This looks like a DV student's project, like the way it looks.
I felt the same way. I was like, all right, all they're doing is putting in the best bits in the trailer, and the show is just going to be terrible.
Right. But that's not the case. People are loving it, man.
Yes.
Is that HBO or Netflix?
Amazon. Yeah.
Wait, isn't HBO under Amazon, or am I crazy?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But yeah, it's on Amazon. Also, I just reminded myself of something that I want to mention for later. Related to the last podcast. So I'm just gonna let my ADHD have a second there. All right. It's good.
Welcome back.
I did it. I'm back. I am back here. Yeah, man. Okay, so Fallout released the show Fallout released on Amazon. I think 3 weeks ago, and critical acclaim across the board. Fans love it. People who talk about TV shows and stuff for a living, they love it also, and it's just gotten a ton of fervor. And it's not even the first good video game adaptation into a TV or film in the last couple of years. Like
Right. We've
it,
recently had The Last of Us
The Last of
not too long
Us,
ago.
the Super
The Witcher.
Mario
Well,
movie.
people don't like The Witcher. Yeah, the Super
The
Mario
first
movie did
season of
really
The
well.
Witcher was good. Then it fell off pretty hard, in my
I
opinion.
pop
I
in
think
every
that's
once in a while on it.
I think that's a largely shared opinion, though, is that it kind of fell
Yeah,
off.
I pop in
And
every once in a while, but it's I'm mixed about it, but it's still interesting to watch.
it is interesting to
Some of those
watch.
stories.
Like
Yeah.
there was also the new Mortal Kombat movie. But yeah, it's crazy because there's more and more and more of these game licenses of IP
Mm-hmm.
for televised or film adaptations being greenlit. Um, I think there's a Tetris movie. There's another Sonic. Oh yeah, the Sonic movies. There's another Sonic movie that's
Sonic.
going to come out,
Mm-hmm.
and these ones that are made with really high production values are making just like stupid amounts of money for these film companies and for the IP holders.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that we are now at this inflection point where games are like saying games are mainstream now is not a stretch, I don't think. Like video games
No,
have
we've talked
been
about
in
that
the
before.
yes, for sure. Like games have been in the cultural consciousness now around the world for I'd argue like the last half a decade, probably. Like the last
Sure.
two console generations, games have
That'd be
become
safe.
like yeah, games have
Yeah, I
become
would say
like
the
a
last
thing
decade.
for sure.
Yeah.
Last decade, I think is yeah,
It's been ramping up since then, for sure.
yes. But now we're at the
Yeah.
point where it's interesting that these video game adaptations are actually like getting to be of the kind of quality that one might expect from a high production value piece of media.
Mm-hmm.
Like The Last of Us, I don't know what their budget was, but like it looks like that's what an HBO show would be, like how Game of Thrones looked early on in its production, right? And the Fallout show, I mean, it's kind of insane how that Fallout show is like more Fallout than some of the recent Fallout stuff that's been
Oh,
put out.
so you've watched it? I haven't
I
seen
watched the
anything
whole
of
thing.
it.
It's I thought it was fantastic.
Is it good? Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was so good. Uh, but
But is
I mean
it
I'm
like
also what's
you're a
that?
big fan of Fallout? Are you a big
I
fan of Fallout?
yeah, I got my little Vault Boy here. I've gotten more
Oh my
questions
God,
about
I've
it
never
than
noticed that.
dude, I got it 10 years ago. I've gotten more questions about it in the last 10 days than in the previous 9
Yeah,
years and 350 days or
that's
whatever.
awesome. Damn, I
Um,
didn't know you were such a big Fallout boy.
I'm a big Fallout New Vegas is one of my favorite games of all time.
Awesome.
3 is
Yeah,
up
I
there.
mean,
4
the
and 76 were big letdowns though.
I played 3 and like I played all of the Elder Scrolls games that were like released in my lifetime. And wow,
Mhm.
that's not true. I'm sure that those other games were out when I was born. I played since Morrowind, let's just say that.
I think
And I think
Arena
that's the third
came out
one.
in the 90s. Like you've
Yeah.
probably been
I was a
I
little
think we've
baby
both been
then.
alive for every single Elder Scrolls game.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. But you
But
can't
it
like blame me for not playing as a baby. I didn't even know how to work a computer back then. I wasn't even teething yet.
you should if you teethed on your computer, you could have played Elder Scrolls Arena.
Yeah, I mean now as an adult, I always chew on my keyboard.
Yeah, that's how I play video games these days.
I remember the thing I like about those games is the like quirkiness and the kind of surreality of it, right?
Yeah.
And like there's kind of a weird humor. I wouldn't say it's like cynical, but it's kind of like a cartoon version of an apocalypse,
Yeah, for
right?
sure. For sure.
Because it's got that motif. It's got like that 60s motif or whatever, the 50s, 60s motif, the Cold War stuff. And it's got like the tongue in cheekness about it, but I feel like the like flavor of Bethesda games, it's so lighthearted about everything. No one's ever being like jabbed at too hard. And so it's kind of a cozy world. Even like the medieval inspired ones, like the Elder Scrolls games, they're dark fantasy or they're fantasy games with dark themes, but it's always for fun.
Yeah.
It's very much like a Shrek version of like a medieval fantasy thing. like it's goofy. There's weird references. There's silly things that happen, and the relationships between characters and what they end up doing to each other or with each other is just like always fun. And even though like everywhere you turn in Fallout, I remember like every note you picked up was like, I told Jimmy to go out to get some water and he never came back. And then you go out back to the pool or whatever, and there's Jimmy's body just lying there like with a smiling skeleton holding like a tequila glass or something.
Yeah, totally.
And so like against all odds of this post-apocalyptic setting being grim, it's like not. It's just funny and fun and cozy. Is that present in the show?
Absolutely. And it kind of touches on, all right, so I wanted to sort of branch into a few topics here, or maybe we could just take one and roll with it. So yes, to answer your question, the show does carry that tone very well. I would go so far as to say as the show does a better job of conveying that tone than the games do. 76 and 3 do a good job, or not 76. Fallout 3 and New Vegas do a great job of walking that line, I think. New Vegas especially.
I mean, they kind of 3 kind of made that it's the first 3D Fallout game, right?
Yeah.
3?
Yeah. I mean they
So
definitely kind of like carried the torch from the first couple games and just sort of iterated upon that tone. But New Vegas really nailed it. However, like 4 and 76 kind of lost their way, and then I think the show sort of came back and like really stuck to their roots. But it does leave me to wonder how video game adaptations are going to be treated from this point on. Because I feel like the Super Mario Bros. Movie was maybe the intersection between, all right, we have all this hype around a movie or media, like any piece of media for a video game property that is not a game itself. And the fact that it capitalized on that really well. Actually, maybe the first Sonic movie was really the one that did it. You could bundle those movies up, right? So now since then we've gotten The Last of Us, we've gotten this Fallout show, and it seems like we're on track for all of these video game adaptations to just be like really good, high quality productions that lean into the elements of their story that make sense and adapting them in a way where an audience who is more passive and not engaged with the property as a video game can enjoy the thing of its own merits. There's part of me that wonders like how the future of video game adaptations are going to look. And I also wonder how studios in the future are going to think about like the idea of transmedia as part of the release of their video games. Because I was thinking of like, all right, what if you took Noida or something, right? Or what if you took Minecraft? Or I don't know. Those are two different ends of the spectrum. I don't know, maybe Terraria as a middle ground or something. Like what if there was a path for smaller independent games to have entry points into transmedia that didn't require like this massive budget behind it, but could still be enjoyed by different kinds of audiences that maybe aren't going to play those games. I know there's like kind of been forays into that stuff, but I feel like it hasn't really been, I don't know, popularized or.
I think
really
with a game of that scale, with an indie game, it's just because movies are so expensive, especially when you stray too far into fantasy settings. Like you said, either Minecraft, Noida, Terraria, like to even just get started with a movie like that, you need to create a visual, and that costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
Like first of all, you're going to need to make it look like it, and it's probably going to involve a lot of CG and probably a lot of like costumes and props or whatever. So I think there's still a high bar of entry for that's why we can only mention like Mario, which is most popular, most recognizable video game character. And then Sonic, another one of those like really recognizable video game characters. Like that's why we can't mention like, I don't know, a Kane and Lynch movie. I'll bring Kane and Lynch up again.
Okay, but like,
because it's
what
not
about
recognizable, you know?
What about like Hollow Knight though, or Shovel Knight?
That's the thing, like
or something.
Those are yeah, I mean, those are indie darlings. Like those are things that they could have a show. I mean, in the past we've seen like comic book forays, or like maybe a little isolated like cartoon series or something like that. A full blown movie. Like here's the thing. I kind of want to go back to what you brought up before, was with like we're starting to see this kind of quality video game movie adaptations come about, and I think the correlation there is, instead of youngsters pleading with like investors to make these video game movies because they love video games, we're now just nerds pleading with more nerds who produce movies. Like the people who love the video games are the producers now of these movies. Also, like we just said, that video games are like the industry is so huge now. It's so viable to make a video game movie. And like,
Yeah.
Sure, Mario is one of the first big ones, and that's because Mario is the biggest one. And I think slowly we'll start to see like bigger risks being taken. I think Last of Us, I mean, at this point, there's so many TV shows that like Last of Us was kind of a shoe-in. It's already kind of structured like a TV show. The Witcher works really well as a TV show. So there's things that are kind of proof of concept already in the works. So I think like, yeah, we're going to start to see more of that sort of thing trickling down to the lesser known properties. But I think when you get down to like Terraria, I don't think like we're going to see it necessarily a movie, nor does anyone want a movie about something like that?
I don't know, dude. I think people would be really excited about that stuff because like if you look at what the Fallout show did to the games, it cast such a wide net for the games that they had like their all-time player peaks for basically every Fallout game that's come out in the modern era, starting with
people
3.
are just buying it up.
Yeah, and Bethesda released like a patch for Fallout 4, which I have all kinds of thoughts about that. That could be its own separate topic. But it's just like wild, man, because like maybe a ton of people weren't aware of Fallout, and now they are, and now they're going back to the game. Like, why couldn't there be something like a Terraria show when there already exists a Cuphead show on Netflix and a Cyberpunk anime on Netflix?
That's what I was thinking of, was the Cuphead thing.
Yeah, and they did it in the MDKB. I forgot what the studio name is, but like they did it in that animation style, which looks exactly like Cuphead too.
I found it to be a little less derivative. I found it
it looks
kind of modern.
Really good. It looks really good. And
to me, the movie looks, or the show looks a little modern. It doesn't.
I mean, they probably, yeah, dude, because they hand animated every frame in that game.
Oh yeah, that's true. And in the show, they couldn't do that, right? They had to do.
It probably would have cost them way too much money.
Right. I guess that's crazy for me to expect that. Yeah. I did watch an episode or two just out of curiosity. I don't think I have any thoughts on it though.
I don't really either, other than the fact that
leave an impression.
It's cool that it exists. But that's the thing, right? Is like it leaves me to wonder what the path looks like for other properties to incorporate transmedia into their strategy, even if they are smaller in scope.
Yeah, because you're right. It is like, I was thinking about it one way. I was thinking of it like the video game fans go to the movie, but I wasn't thinking that the fans of the movie, whoever they might be, it's more people, right? Because people like movies. It's easier to watch a movie.
Yeah.
Support the game, so they go back and so it does help like the game more to have a movie. I can see that. Like, I just, for some reason, I wasn't thinking that.
And even for existing fans too, to like re-engage with that game if they haven't for a long time also, you know?
Yeah. I mean, like any, I'm first thinking big brands, because I think that's the safest bet. That's why we see Mario movie. And I also wanted to mention the Lego movie. I think the Lego movie was probably one of the first big, like, transmedia things. Like Lego movie did so well, and it spoke so well to the consumers of Legos because it had all the culture ingrained in it. It was also like the pacing was modern enough to appeal to kids, like new kids, just like Legos is appealing for all generations. So yeah, I think that the big brands are the ones that we're going to start seeing first. We have been seeing first. In the future, though, like trying to imagine like smaller titles getting any kind of tie-in, like a movie tie-in. Like what comes to mind right now are things that would work well as like a Netflix series. Like Alan Wake, I think, has probably got a show on the way, right? Because it's already kind of like TV show material.
I'm not sure if it does, but I like the idea of
It's
that
gotta
happening.
Last of Us was like a shoe-in because that guy, you can tell he just loves TV and film. Like the guy who Neil Druckmann, is that his name? So that's
Neil
what's coming to
Druckmann
mind
is
first.
like the Kojima of the West, I think. Like
yeah, he's very like ingrained in media.
Yes,
he's definitely got his finger on the pulse. Even though he's making something about zombies, which is out of vogue right now. But even still, like he's going on it. Oh, I saw you.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm trying to disable the preview because it's stuttering, but I don't think that's gonna happen.
I like how grim you like how grim your face was when that happened.
We're
you
good.
saw
We're
a ghost. We're all set. Nothing has fallen down.
Yeah, we're fine.
But yeah, trying to imagine like what's a smaller that's the thing. I'm thinking serialized type things. Like I'm thinking Kingdom Come Deliverance would make a good TV show. Stuff like that.
Okay.
But like as far as like market demands and like viability, it all comes down to like what's viable at the time. So obviously we see big things right now like Mario, but later on, like I can't imagine it being so saturated to where the point where we could see a Kane and Lynch movie or like anything small scale like that. Like
okay, but here's the thing though, right? Is like I think that viability is going to widen considerably as a result of these bigger shows doing well, right? Because there's going to be a huge well to tap into for all of these AAA properties. Like I don't know, maybe there's a Call of Duty movie at some point or something, but like kind of who gives a shit? Like the idea of going smaller is actually way more interesting to me. Because it would be so easy to do a Call of Duty movie. It's like, I don't know, it's Jason Bourne but with more military stuff or something, you know?
Yeah, it feels kind of passé.
But what if you narrowed that viewpoint and you had like a Hades movie or TV show? I mean, it kind of has that format already a little bit.
A lot of character-driven things.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like these things that have... Dude, Dishonored. We were talking about the world building in Dishonored, right? Like, Dishonored could totally be something where they explore that universe a bit more and, like, you finally tap into the dinosaurs a bit or something to that effect, you know?
Yeah, the Lost World portion of
it. Yeah, totally.
That'd be awesome.
And I mean, it's not like Dishonored doesn't carry any weight, but it's also interesting to consider, like, you mentioned Kane and Lynch. Like, could Kane and Lynch have a movie? I mean... Maybe,
dude,
but like
it is a movie.
But the timing on it is important as well, right? Like you're not going to go back to Army of Two and Kane and Lynch and be like, or Mercenaries and be like, yeah, let's totally make movies for these properties.
It is about properties. It's about brands. It's about market viability. It's always going to be, and that's why like right now we're seeing a lot of TV shows pop up with these series that we'd never dreamed of, like Fallout, like. Sure, maybe someone's thought like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to have a movie or a series in the Fallout universe? Or someone who likes The Witcher, the same with The Witcher. It's because now it's so viable for a business to just put recognizable content on their streaming platforms. Like I keep hearing all the time that Netflix is like, they're just putting content up there because it makes their market shares more valuable. Like to say we have this content, we have this like it doesn't even matter if it makes money or not. It's just the content that's up there gives the business value. Yeah. And so like, yeah, I mean, as long as it's recognizable to a group of people, I think it's totally viable to have at least a series or a movie tie-in. And yeah, I think we will start to see more and more tie-ins of like even more and more obscure things. It's just like right now we're seeing the big guys right now getting their movie fixes. And it's also like, will the publisher of a game want to be part of a cinematic universe, or will they want to be part of that medium? Because in some ways it devalues the game. Like to have you could argue that The Last of Us TV show, you don't need to play the game. You can just watch the movie or the series and be fine. So like, it really depends on the publisher to be in on that stuff, like to be game for it. I think at this point it couldn't hurt. It's just like it is costly to make a show. We're seeing so many shows nowadays that we think it's like cheap to make a show, and I think relative to a movie or something, sure, but it's still a huge endeavor for an investor to make. To just be like, let's just make this like 12 episode series all of a sudden, and yeah, but I still, it's totally not going to stop. I think it's going to keep going. It's going to get more and more obscure as the market grows because there's always going to be more people. There's so much room in this market for these groups to be pleased. Like, I'm trying to think of another thing that could be plausible in the future.
Dude, okay. Here's an idea I had. I want to drop some video game names on you, and you tell me how viable.
I'll give you a yay or nay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll put on my like publisher hat.
Okay.
My investor hat.
Did you ever watch Happy Tree Friends? Are you familiar with that?
No, I was always kind of sickened by it.
Okay, but you know what it is?
Yeah, I know what it is.
All right, here's my first game for you in this hypothetical. Ready?
A Happy Tree Friends.
Cult of the Lamb.
Oh, I would give that a 1 season, like 6 episode animated series. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Totally. Because people like that cutesy death, right?
Yeah.
Isn't there like sodomy and stuff in there too? Isn't there like weird gangbangs and stuff? And like,
I mean, Happy Tree Friends gets kind of weird. Cult of the Lamb is definitely not as grotesque in that sense. It's more like tongue in cheek.
It kind of plays a little cuter. I see. Yeah. But you're still like sacrificing people and like,
I mean, yeah, but who doesn't? Who doesn't? Okay.
What self-respecting criminal cult leader wouldn't?
Exactly. Disco Elysium.
That's another like live action show. Like I would give it. I can see like a live action series because it's so sprawling, right? Like there's so many stories to be told.
Yes.
I don't know how strong the world itself is.
Dude, that game started as like a 10-year world building exercise.
Oh, you mentioned
we kind of talked about it a little bit before.
It either needs the strong characters or it needs like the strong world, like one or the other to play with. So put in new characters in the same world or put the same characters in the same world. Like it needs, but I can totally see that as like a live action. I'll give it 1 season.
1 season.
Just to see. And then we'll see how well it does and then we can think about more seasons and we'll see if the scriptwriter's up to it, if they can if they can really please the crowd with some intrigue. Okay. We'll hire on some of the writers of the game to get some like authenticity there, some selling points.
All right. Elden Ring.
Elden Ring. Damn.
What would you do with Elden Ring, if any?
Elden Ring's a no-go for me. I don't think I could do it. I could see it as a movie. I don't think I could see it as a show or anything. You know what I could see it as is like kind of a derivative anime. Like, you know those anime that they make on Netflix that doesn't quite look like an anime? It's like animated in Korea or something. Like they made a Witcher animated movie and it doesn't quite look like anime. It looks like a Western anime sort of. I could see Elden Ring being something like that. Like a Netflix, I'm going to be saying Netflix a lot because that's the one I subscribe to, but I could see like a 3 episode sort of thing. I mean, Onimusha, for crying out loud. We're going to be talking about Onimusha when my thing comes up.
Oh, wow.
But that has a series on Netflix and that no one asked for that. But there it is. It exists.
Dude, I don't even think I played Onimusha. Okay. But
yeah, it's kind of a deep cut.
All right,
that's as far as I would go. It's like a 3 episode like animated kind of art piece.
Okay.
Because they're like, what is there to do in that world? But like, I mean, maybe some lore folks could like, there could be some interesting stories to be told throughout the lore. But at that point, you're sort of making a compendium thing. I don't know. That I can't see as easily. That's a tough one because I love those games, but the Souls games. But the story.
It's so
for me it takes a back seat. It would be more like an experimental visual thing, like just to see re-represented. Also, those games are so well realized. I don't think it needs necessarily. Maybe someone else could tell me different, but in my opinion, I don't think it needs. So I would say no on that. That's a thumb down for me.
Okay, here's my last one for you. Okay. Vampire Survivors.
The card game? Wait, what?
What Vampire Survivors? Have you not played Vampire Survivors?
That sounds like Among Us.
Dude, oh my god, Vampire Survivors took the world by storm over the last
What is
year
this?
and a
I've
half
never
or
seen
so.
this.
Yeah. You should
Oh,
watch
I
the
have seen footage of it. Yes. So it's like a horde. You're like, is it like a
it's
shmup sort of where you keep upgrading your weapons, but then
it's
the hordes get bigger?
yes. But it's
This looks
like an
cool.
auto yeah, it's an auto. Well, I guess shmups are kind of auto anyway.
So it's a
But yeah,
Roomba simulator.
it's a Roomba simulator, but you're cleaning up
Okay.
demons and skeletons with
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
bullets and garlic and such.
This looks satisfying, but also like ugly at the same time.
Dude, it has a great description and it is apt. That's how it feels
uh,
too. But
I
it's
don't think
oh
I
my
could
God,
say
it's so
anything
good.
about this one as far as like viable like cross media, transmedia. I have no idea
You don't think
what
so,
angle you could take
dude?
with this.
You know you know what they did for their add-on marketing pushes is they hired out a studio to make like anime promo videos.
Yeah,
So
because
all of
all
their
the key art looks
trailers,
really cool.
yes, the key art has
Yeah.
nothing to do with what the game actually looks like, but it's evocative of the really tiny little universe that Ponko made for Vampire Survivors.
Hmm.
Yeah. So
I
by way of even making that trailer, they kind of invented the possibility for something like a Vampire Survivor show to exist, in my opinion. And I think like that is actually I think that's a really good example of where studios can experiment with sort of testing the waters of trying to see if they could actually make something bigger out of their game. Right? Is like
yeah,
how can
but
you extrapolate your game one layer into another
uh-huh.
medium that's not so resource intensive that you have to like go all in on
Right.
making a show, but you at least like create the little toy version for people to engage with.
Yeah, it's starting to feel like the toys of the '80s, where the shows were made to sell the toys. You know,
Yeah,
like that's
yeah.
what it kind of feels like
Yeah,
with the
totally.
way it's working now. Because like even as you were talking, I was thinking like it doesn't have brand recognition. Like why is there need to be a show? But then again, it's like the way you were saying, it's like no, people come from the show to the game. It's not the other way around. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Like you could just have a show about vampires, which we have plenty of already, and just call it Vampire Survivors. You know, like I
Vampire
don't
Survivor.
know
I'm
if it
pretty sure there's not
necessarily.
even a single vampire in Vampire Survivors, by the way.
There must be one in there somewhere.
I
You're
really
probably
don't think
surviving
there
against
is.
at least a couple.
I don't think there's a
What do the
single
hordes?
vampire.
What do the hordes consist of? Is it zombies and stuff? Just
Everything, basically
monsters?
everything that's like vampire adjacent that's not a vampire. So like you can get
So
garlic
like
as a
Van
weapon, but
Helsing
there's
stuff.
like skeletons and bats and wizards and stuff. I'm pretty sure
So,
there's not an
it feels
actual
very
vampire.
like Castlevania
Yeah, yeah, totally.
or like
Castlevania is a heavy influence on the game, I would say.
or Legacy of Kain. Do you play as a vampire? Maybe that's it. You're the vampire
I
survivor.
don't. Perhaps.
Like Legacy of Kain,
I never played
sort
Legacy of
of.
Kain.
That's a series that could come back as a show or something.
I think that's an interesting proposition of like reviving old properties as shows. I think there's one or two of those that have been greenlit over the last couple of years, just conceptually.
Yeah, I mean, like that's how you pull. That's the whole story with these '80s reboots and '80s homages of the last couple like decades, like Stranger Things and the remakes of like old slasher movies and stuff. It's kind of the same. You need a target audience though, like for movies, whereas like the way I'm understanding it now, or the way I'm thinking now as well, is like just make something cool, call it that, and then you're sending people back to the source, whether you've
Yeah.
remastered an old game or like, because Legacy of Kain, I don't think you can play it anymore. I don't think it's accessible. Maybe it's on GOG or something. But if there was like Legacy of Kain game or a movie, I mean, or a show or something, people would go to that product. So maybe we'd first see like a Legacy of Kain HD remaster, and then they would release the show, and that would send people to the HD remaster. But stuff that's like inaccessible, there's no reason to make a movie out of it, right? Except for
Yeah.
maybe, I don't know, if it has a really strong fan base or something. I don't know.
Soul Reaver. Yeah, I'm more familiar with Soul Reaver as a thing.
Yeah. Soul Raver.
Dude,
Yeah, that's the one I played
Knights.
too.
Man, that's a
Doesn't that just bring you back? Just hearing
yeah.
that.
Didn't Silicon Knights make Two Human? I'm pretty sure, and then they shut down. I think that's what happened.
Too human.
Without looking it up. Are you familiar? Nah, that was a whole
Yes.
that was a whole
I
thing.
remember that being a whole controversy back then.
Yeah. Oh,
Back when
maybe we
controversies
can
were
bring
simple and sweet.
a two human TV show to revive that franchise.
From what I remember, wasn't that like Nordic cyberpunk, Nordic mythology cyberpunk sort of thing?
Yeah,
Am I?
something to that
Yeah.
effect.
There's cool stuff to that for sure. Like I think that's appealing now. But the name Too Human, what does that do for you? It doesn't do anything for you.
Not really.
And also the game itself, people from what I remember wasn't very warmly received.
No.
So I think like making a remaster of it, just a straight up remastering, like an HD remaster, you wouldn't be sending people to a nice place.
No,
You'd
I
make
don't
the
think
show,
so.
people get excited about the show, and then. But that's the thing, like isn't there a writer's strike right now because of all the AI?
That ended. Well,
It's over.
the Writers Guild of America strike ended, which I think is
So they're back at it.
Or SAG-AFTRA. Yeah, the film strike ended.
Because that's the thing, like
there might be one for
that's what I really give a lot of credit to the writers of these things, because they're really taking basically a blank canvas for a lot of these different shows. For like the Fallout show, like they have basically a post-apocalyptic world, they have a flavor to go with, and they can just go crazy writing interesting things, and those writers are so creative that like it's up to them whether or not the show sticks. Like if the show has the characters are there and the plot complexity and the interest, if that's there as far as the writers are concerned or the writing's concerned, that's what makes these shows really, really explode. I think is not just the brand recognition, but just the creativity of these writers. They just pull stuff out of thin air and make these worlds so interesting. And I feel like I don't want to like say that writers are easy to come by, right? But it seems like people have a lot of resources for finding good writers in this day and age where we're getting so many cool shows and so many acclaimed series that are just story after story after story after story. There's so much dependency on writing. I just feel like I can have faith that like you can take any property, put some good writers on it, and they'll make a successful show. That's what it feels like.
I would really hope that we move in that direction. And ideally, this latest, I didn't actually even think about it until you just brought it up, but like, it would be great if we could move a lot of the writing talent that works on, television and film traditionally into more of these crossover spaces, and not just look at them as, stuff to be replaced by AI. While you were talking about that, I asked ChatGPT to give me write me an outline for a TV show based on the video game Vampire Survivors. It's so fucking bad. In a world where vampires and humans coexist, albeit with tension and conflict, a cataclysmic event known as the Blood Moon. Oh, by the way, the title of the show is called Blood Moon Chronicles. An event known as the Blood Moon has occurred, triggering a sudden surge in vampire population and power, which has absolutely nothing to do with the show. With their the game. With their newfound strength, vampires have become emboldened, posing a significant threat to humanity. Amidst the chaos, a group of unlikely survivors must navigate the treacherous landscape of this new world, forming uneasy alliances and facing off against both human and vampire adversaries to ensure their survival. These episode outlines, if you can believe it, are actually worse than that. And I'm not going to read it any further.
The thing about that, like you say, it's worse than the game, which sure, I don't know what the story of the game is, but it's also
there kind of
like
isn't one, but it's not even like the vibe that the game gives off.
Right.
And yet
it's just that we've seen it before. I literally just finished watching an episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is just a reboot essentially of the original animated TV show, which has the same story, pretty much.
Which already has a movie adaptation. Also,
which has the blood moon, like the whole gaining strength from the moon in it, and that's just one example. Like we see stuff like that everywhere. The power of writing, which is why it's crazy to think anyone replacing real writers. Like sure, Disney, they can make their movies AI generated. I don't give a fuck. Like their stuff is so bad now. People are literally comparing it to AI stuff.
Yeah,
but like the things that matter when the writing is there, it's like so surprising. You've never considered before. Like that's the stuff that I really respect, because I have a tough time coming up with story. Like just thinking of plot turns and twists and just even like any plot points in a story. I really respect writers in that way, to just create these crazy complex things that are just intriguing and interesting. There's like imagining an AI to come up with something new like that is, I just don't think it's possible. I don't think
Sure.
they're basically they're summing writing of the world into, like, have you ever seen that picture? It was way back in the day. They asked a computer to like make the average woman or whatever, and it's the average male, the average female, and it just spit out these like two potato head like Elder Scrolls Oblivion characters.
Yeah.
That were just like so neutral and mild in every way, just like the average of everyone on the world, or the average of most people who had their headshots taken. That's what kind of AI is at this point, because it's really not thinking for itself, and it's not using like real human thought patterns to like make anything intriguing. It's just summing things.
Yeah.
Right. It's making like an average of things.
That's the thing, right? And then we should get into your topic, but I think the thing is like it's about taking the clay of a game and shaping that into something that could be conveyed narratively in other mediums. I think there is so much potential for like just about any game to be able to do something like that. And I think that's a really exciting space to explore that I hope we get to see explored over the next decade or so.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, totally. I think we're not going to stop seeing it. I don't think we have any word in it. I think it's going to keep coming. It's going to be cool. It's going to suck. It's going to be everything. But it's the simplest point about it is that it's like, it's so popular now, games, that we're going to start seeing it in more and more places. And we're going to start seeing like our favorite directors making movies and shows about our favorite games. And it's going to be awesome.
Exciting times, man. One of the two. Either way, it'll be fun.
One more. I want to add one more thing. Okay.
Okay. All right. And then
anyone listening,
then you're up.
Yeah. But this is important. I need to say this. Okay. I need to get this off my chest. For anyone listening who might be a director or an aspiring writer or anything who's in the industry of making TV or movies, consider Kane and Lynch 2 Dog Days movie or TV show, because that would be super cool. And I want to see it. And I think it's ripe for the picking.
Dude, it's up to you. It's up to you, buddy.
For now, I'm satisfied with the
change
game,
you wish to see in the world.
I know, I know it could make for some good cinema.
I need like a 90-minute explanation of why Kane and Lynch 2 Dog Days is one of your favorite games. I just like, I feel like your personality just, I don't know how that happened, and I need to understand. I need to.
Right. We'll talk. Maybe we can talk about it sometime. Maybe I'll give you a heads up and we can spend like an episode on it or something. Or maybe I can just bring it up as a topic. We'll talk about it sometime.
Yes. Let's totally talk about Kane and Lynch 2 Dog Days for an hour. All right. But
not today. Because today,
not today.
Yeah, for now, let's get into my topic. And I mentioned Onimusha earlier.
Yes.
Because they did have a TV show. That, to their credit, didn't have anything to do with any of the stories of the other games. Like, it was their own fresh new story just in that kind of world.
Okay.
Which is cool.
I don't think I ever played Onimusha. Can you give me a kind of quick refresher on what Onimusha is?
For sure. It's Resident Evil, but in feudal Japan, or feudal Japan.
Okay.
That's it. Zombie, samurai, and that's
excellent.
Okay.
I'm on board.
My topic is as simple as this. Which game series would you like to see rebooted a la Resident Evil 4 reboot, remaster, or not remaster, reboot, or reimagining, or remake, so to speak. So what's your picks for that sort of thing?
I need to think about this.
Okay, well, I can give you mine for now.
Okay, actually, I do. All right, I do have an answer. Well,
I want a couple answers.
All right, well, I'll give you one. And this one makes me kind of sad because, well, anyway, my initial answer is Time Splitters, specifically Time Splitters Future Perfect.
Which one is that in the series?
The third.
I don't even know how many.
Third and last one. There were three. There was Time Splitters 2, and Time Splitters Future Perfect. Time Splitters Future Perfect is one of my favorite. That's my Kane and Lynch 2 Dog Days. Like it had a weird little following. You could play that game online on PS2, if you could believe that. I did that.
The third one?
It was so cool.
What's the studio behind that? Just to frame it a little bit.
Free Radical, which
Free Radical.
was a
And they went under, I think.
Square. Yeah, they were very recent. They made Haze. I think Haze bombed, and then Free Radical turned into something else because I'm pretty sure they were owned by Square Enix, and I think they've worked on other stuff. And then they got reborn as Free Radical again. And I think
there's probably no one originally on the team.
There were a few people, and that was specifically to reboot Time Splitters. And then as of like 6 months ago or something, they shut down the project again.
Mm-hmm. I think what I was remembering was they were working on Time Splitters 4, but that was canceled.
Yeah. That sounds right. I think that was the initial reporting, and then it sounded like they were gonna like kind of reboot Time Splitters 2 or something for some reason. I don't know. It was really weird.
Well,
and it makes
before we go on, can you explain like what Time Splitters is for people who might not know?
Sure. Time Splitters is a first-person shooter of the PS2 era. You played as this guy Cortez, who he's kind of like a space, not a cop. Like he's like a space James Bond sort of thing, where he's just trying to save the world from some sort of time event causing a cataclysm or whatever. And there's like evil dudes that are trying to take all the time crystals and whatever. But it's a super weird time travel-y game where you're going through, well, Time Splitters Future Perfect at least, and 2 as well. You're traveling through time, trying to defeat the evil baddie, and they're in that era with you, and that's how the story progresses. So in Future Perfect, for example, I think you start in like 1940s France or something, and there's so castles and tanks and then you like go into the disco America era, and you just go back and forth in time, and the weapons that you have access to are reminiscent of that era as well. So you'll have like you go into the future and you have like future guns. You go in the past and you have past guns, and like
wait a minute.
It's super weird.
From what I remember seeing, I've only like seen a few videos of it, but what I remember, the main character is like this big bald guy with weird like suntan glasses, like sunbathing goggles on.
That's Cortez.
Does he keep that look even though he's in 1940s France?
Cortez keeps the look the whole time, I believe.
So he's in old timey France in the 30s, like World War II or whatever, and he's got his.
He's just looking like a huge goofball. Yeah, because he gets transported through all these different points in time. But it's funny because like his companions will change outfits as you like go through different eras.
So they get in the spirit of it. They go to the Renaissance Fair wearing an outfit, and he stays looking like a future soldier. Yeah,
it definitely plays into the cheesiness and the camp of the game. Like it doesn't take itself too seriously. I mean, you can do them in the multiplayer mode. You can play as this character called the Shoal, which is like a school of fish and a whale. Like you're literally playing as a school of fish and a whale, controlling the same way as any other character, and you can hunt undead deer. You can hunt monkeys, or like you can play against monkeys.
This is the most adorable flashback to like the purity of PS2 games, where like
100%, man.
They just went all in on the like modes, and like, you know, the big head mode is such a staple of old fashioned like cheat codes and stuff. And like the little dev goofs and stuff in there, like you don't see that anymore, man. You don't see like cute things like that in games anymore.
Dude, I played hundreds of hours of Time Splitters 2.
Damn. Did you play a lot online?
I played a bit online, on the PS2, which was really crazy. Because you could make maps, dude. You could make maps and upload them online on PS2. Sheesh. Like this was what?
This pre-SourceForge.
Yeah, this was many, many years ago. 20 years ago? Holy shit. This was probably about 20 years ago. Dude, that sometimes you just like think about these things. You're like, wow, fuck, I've been alive for a while.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen it all. We've seen the whole, like we've seen this all the growing pains of the whole industry. We've been
Yeah.
around since the start of it, really.
Yeah.
Since
But
games.
yeah, dude, that's a game I'd like to see redone. There is this
But what?
project called Time Splitters Rewind, which is a fan-made remake being done in Unreal, and that's
Mhm.
still cranking along, but a proper like studio resourced with a publisher kind of thing remake of
What do you?
Future Perfect.
What would you see that being like? Like, what would it look and feel like? Would it be more like a modern shooter, or would it still be classic feeling,
Oh,
or like
that's
what engine
a
would
good
it be in? Would it be
question.
stylized? Would it be realistic looking?
That's such a good
Like
question.
what? But what would you want? Not like what it probably would be if it was made, but what was like? What's the ideal
You know,
for your remake of it?
what's funny about that question is like I don't even know if it would make like how would you translate the RE remake treatment to other properties? Like I
Yeah, because
feel
the style, that's a stylized game. If you go back and look at
yeah,
it, it looks kind of like
totally.
a Jack and Daxter sort of. It looks like a PS2 like stylized thing.
Like
It definitely wasn't.
it makes so much sense for Resident Evil. Would it even make sense for other games? Like another example I was thinking of was Dynasty Warriors 3.
Mhm.
Dude, I used to play the hell out of that game too.
Yeah,
Like the Muso style game where you're just, fighting hundreds and hundreds of enemies or whatever. Like
classic
would
sleepover game material.
yes, dude, absolutely. But
Staying
like
up all night.
would that be better with I don't know, um like a Sifu style combat system or
Oh,
even like maybe not even Sifu, but oh my God, what's the other Bloodborne like where you're in Japan?
oh,
Sekiro.
Sekiro.
Like, would Sekiro be a would that combat system lend well to a Muso style game, right?
Right. I mean, I guess I would imagine one of those games just being like, better uh, presentation and more enemies on
Yeah,
screen. Like
but
that's kind of all I would
I'd want
expect
it
out
to
of that.
feel modern too, right? And that's
I
to
guess.
your question. I don't 100% know what I would really want from that. Like, is it something I want that I don't actually want or care about?
Those games are so arcadey that like to make it feel like For Honor, for example, would kind of take the spirit out of it. Like sure, you could have a For Honor game with more troops. You're just a big guy against a bunch of little guys, and have it all the characters stylized towards that Chinese mythology. You could do that, but it wouldn't feel right. It wouldn't be the same game series anymore. Because Resident Evil still feels like survival horror, even though it's the gameplay's way different
Uh,
now.
dude,
Whereas that needs to be
man.
like you're slicing down 100 guys at once with big attacks and stuff. I guess that's, but for time splitters, I mean, we've kind of worn out the formula for first person shooters at this point, right?
That's the thing. Like, I'm trying to think of other games that I'd want to see remade like that, and I don't even know that I have a like an actual good one that would make sense for it. I was also thinking Roller Coaster Tycoon, and it's like that like there's Planet Coaster that's kind of tried to emulate that, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's examples to play there.
I don't know, man. And so okay, here's my question back to you is like why is Onimusha this game for you? And can you think of other games that would make sense for that RE remake treatment?
Yeah, I guess part of the question there, maybe I asked it wrong because what I actually have written down here is like what you want to come out as a remake, or and what you think is going to come out soon. Because sometimes I get feelings, I get like little vibes. Ever since like Resident Evil 2 and stuff started getting remade, I started feeling like wishes were being granted all over the place. Like we started seeing Devil May Cry reboot sort of things. Like I think Capcom is doing it. I think Capcom is really on top of their stuff. Like kind of fan pleasing with all these remakes
Yeah, I
and
mean
stuff.
it's become core to their business strategy because they were falling
Yeah.
off hard after Street Fighter 5 and they needed some wins. So they
Oh yeah, I heard
reinvigorated.
that didn't go so well for them there.
Yeah, so they had to reinvigorate by injecting some kind of juice into their properties, right?
And
Um,
honestly, like they're a great example of doing it right. Like I think there's a lot of issues with the remakes of the Resident Evil games, especially in like the writing and the performances. but the games are good. Like they're just fun to play. They're easy to play. They're interesting. And they set this like kind of expectation in my mind where like, oh, when's Resident Evil 5 going to get their remake? I guess I'd call it a reboot. No, it's a remake, whatever. Or like, when's this other thing going to get a remake? And so like, obviously, Onimusha, like I grew up with this game. It's Resident Evil in feudal Japan, and it has like the most coziest vibes, like because you're in these old castles exploring stuff. That's like next. That answers both those questions. Like what I expect to come out as a remake and what I want to come out as a remake is I really want like in the RE engine the same like fidelity as Resident Evil 2 remake, but Onimusha Warlords, the first one, and then maybe eventually Onimusha 2 and 3. And the reason why I'm so excited about it is because they did do a HD remaster of Onimusha Warlords, and they made that show. And so like all the signs are in the wind to have this series rejuvenated. And yeah, so that's what I'm excited about. And I guess there's not a whole lot to talk about because like we know it's a known quantity what these remakes look like because the Resident Evil stuff. It is just an exciting concept to imagine these like this classic Japanese. I really love that setting in general, just that like feudal Japan, big wooden castles, winding corridors, spooky monsters, Japanese horrors in this time period. And not necessarily the combat or anything didn't really stick with me that much, but just like the setting of a haunted mansion or haunted castle in feudal Japan, just like the first Resident Evil game. It's basically a 1-to-1. You go into a mansion, you solve a mystery, you do some puzzles, you fight some zombies, and you get out. And and it's cozy.
I like that example because it is akin to games that have been rebooted successfully recently.
Mm-hmm.
I think you might have mentioned Jak and Daxter also, which I could.
Oh yeah, I mentioned it.
But like Ratchet and Clank, see with Onimusha, like Onimusha didn't continue on like up until today or anything, right? Like they had a few games in the series, and then
it was definitely like a PS2 era darling, a little offshoot of the Resident Evil style. And then I think they released 1, 2, and 3. I think did fine. Like as far as I could tell as a little kid, like I bought them up as soon as they came out. 2 and 3 anyway, because 1 I had already played, and then I think they released maybe a little later. Like I was in high school already, and they came out with a 4th entry. And to my understanding, it didn't like meet expectations for fans. It was kind of far out there. It looks like a Sekiro kind of with things are kind of more fantasy. Not Sekiro. Okay. What am I thinking of? Oh, Neo, the Neo series, Neo 1 and 2. Like it felt more like that with more magical yokai and stuff sort of thing. So, I mean, Onimusha, it's in the name. Like it's about like Japanese spirits and demons and stuff. So it makes sense, but I think it didn't resonate with people for whatever reason.
I think there's a new game coming out from the Neo devs that's in a similar vein as that.
Yeah, Team Ninja. They just released Rise of the Ronin recently to some pretty warm fanfare.
Okay. I could have sworn there was another similar game coming out.
No, actually, yeah. The other one you might have thought about, because in the Capcom, one of the latest, I think it was the last Capcom, they do like their little showcases every month. I think their monthly showcase. They announced a game called, or not announced, they showed more of a game I'm actually really interested in called Kinutse Genmai. Kunitsugami. Oh my god!
I remember it had like really trippy visuals, and they showed some gameplay, and it looked Neo-esque. So I don't know.
Very like it's actually like a tower defense sort of thing. It's a third-person action game, but tower defense sort of. But yeah, the effects are very like kaleidoscopy, and I loved it. I really loved the visual style. I thought nothing else looks like this. This is really cool. I wish-listed it immediately. It's going to come out in Steam whenever the game launches.
Cool.
But yeah, that's the cool thing about that for a boy like me is there's no shortage of like either ancient Japanese or feudal Japan like games coming out. Like we said, Neo 2 is fairly recent, maybe a couple years back. Rise of the Ronin. Um, Shadow, something about shadows.
Something
What was,
about
oh no, I'm
shadows.
maybe I'm thinking of yeah. There's just something about shadows. What's the deal with shadows? What
A
was it
game.
called? That new action game where you ride a horse around and it's the Koreans. Oh no, it's the
Ghost of
Genghis Khan
Tsushima?
is attacking.
Nope.
Ghost of Tsushima.
Is
Yeah.
it?
No, that's
Okay.
it. Yep, Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah, there's a lot of like great like feudal Japan games if you want to like kind of experience those visuals and sounds and whatnot. So yeah, also like the fact that this Kunitsu Gami game came from Capcom kind of gives me a little more hope for the Onimusha. Oh, I'm just totally like failing on these Japanese pronunciations. In my head, I'm so good at pronouncing these names.
Oh, I just
But
accept that I'm terrible at them.
the Onimusha, like I feel like Capcom's like, yeah, let's lean more into the ancient Japan, feudal Japan like stuff. So I'm pretty hopeful that soon enough we'll be seeing, I should say. I don't like to say we're going to get it like I'm being served food, but we will see an Onimusha remaster or remake project coming out soon. I'm excited for it because I love that setting.
Yeah, I can't remember if we touched on this amidst all of our technical issues, but I was thinking that it would be really like it makes a lot of sense for a game like Onimusha to be remade, given that the games akin to it, like Resident Evil, have proven success there already.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, right. Okay. I was I was wondering what the criteria might be for a game to get this kind of treatment, right? Like dormant-ish IP or an IP that needs some kind of revitalization or
hmm
game
Yeah,
franchise
like Resident
or
Evil needed
IP.
a redo, right? Like it
Totally,
just needed
right?
to refresh itself.
But like Onimusha is kind of weird because it maybe had some reverence back in the day, but how many people are really going to resonate with it now?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to throw an example by you of one that I think might actually be a good candidate. Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, totally. Oh, absolutely. I mean, with like just like you were talking about these like 2.5D remasters coming out.
Yes.
Like,
Oh
why the
my
hell
God,
haven't they
dude.
done Chrono Trigger yet?
Chrono Trigger being more streamlined and having a modernized art style and like modernized
hmm
JRPG combat. I mean, I've expressed on this in these discussions that JRPGs are my least favorite genre, but I do have a fond memory for Chrono Trigger.
Yeah,
And
Bianca as well. We were just talking about this recently. Actually, she was like, I've never played, but she has a special place in her heart, and I'm sure they'll get around to doing this like
we'll
2.5D remaster at the
we'll see,
very
man.
least.
I mean, it's Square, right? And if they're moving into Unreal, like I could totally see them doing that. Wait,
Yeah,
Square published Octopath Traveler, right? Am I?
I'm the wrong guy to ask, but it sounds like sure.
Okay. Uh,
I think most JRPGs that we see, it's Square Enix who's publishing, because otherwise it's difficult to make it to the United States and make a big splash. But so if you've
yeah,
heard of it,
okay,
I'm
that
sure
was
it's
Square. So Square has the 2.5. Okay, so I could totally see Square doing for some of their older JRPGs, or older JRPGs. Actually, I don't even know if who published Chrono Trigger. I think it was Square. Uh, Chrono Trigger was published by Square as well. So I could totally see them doing for Chrono Trigger what they've already done with their newer JRPG titles,
yeah.
which are kind of
I
in
think
that
it's
vein,
ramping up to
anyways.
that.
Like in the same
That's
way
actually
that
funny.
Capcom's doing that for their style of games, you know?
Yeah, I guess so. They're in the same boat right now where Capcom is doing their like, blockbuster, high quality cinematic things. Square Enix is rejuvenating these in some cases unrecoverable or like non-existent JRPGs that like in some cases JRPGs that never made it. I don't know if Square necessarily, but some Japanese publishers are bringing over games that were never published in the United States
Mm.
nowadays, so people can play them who used to when they were kids played like imports or fan translated versions or
Yeah.
whatever. So yeah, very cool to see. I mean, there's that whole generation of like dogging on remasters and remakes, but I think now we're seeing like really good application of this stuff. Things that like they're getting good money behind them, the project, and things that really deserve to be rejuvenated, like a JRPG that never made it outside of Japan. I think that's super important.
100%.
I thought it was funny that you mentioned Chrono Trigger, you mentioned Time Splitters, and Onimusha 3. They all have time travel in them. That's kind of the theme.
Maybe we just need time traveling games to be reinvigorated. That's the move.
Yeah. That's cool. I mean, Onimusha 3 is the only game I experienced time travel in a game, I believe. And as simple as it was implemented in there, I know other games handle time travel in a really interesting way. Where like, Dishonored 2 has time travel, sort of, where you're seeing the same areas but in a different time period. So that's all stuff that I never really got exposed to. But I imagine you playing Time Splitters, like that's something that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
To see, like, I don't know. Like Chrono Trigger, I don't know anything about it. Maybe I've seen the intro of the game. Maybe I've heard some of the music, but the story beats of it, I have no idea. But there's a lot of reverence there. I'm sure. I'm almost. I would put money on Square Enix bringing that. At the very least, a 2.5 Unreal Engine thing, just like Octopath Traveler, because that's what they're doing. That's the whole thing they're doing now.
I'm
like a lot of those games.
I could see it.
But I wanted to actually say, like, just to kind of like where I'm coming from with Onimusha is more like a vibes thing, because the story, I don't know it that well. It's sort of a game that when I was a kid, I never beat it because I wasn't smart enough. But I remember being in the castle, just existing in this world and feeling very, very cozy, like exploring these little haunted hallways and little cellars and stuff. And the only other place I've gotten that same feeling was playing For Honor, the story mode in For Honor, because there's a siege when the Vikings go to attack the samurai. I don't know if you played the story mode. I mean, I know you played the multiplayer at least, right?
Yeah, I played the multiplayer at E3.
There's the story mode. I played. Oh, really? I thought you had more. I thought you had more experience with the game.
Nope. I spent like 3 hours at the E3 where For Honor was being shown.
Oh my god,
playing.
The game is so
For Honor.
good.
Yeah, it was pretty cool though.
3 hours well spent for sure. And I mean, the game has only gotten prettier. Like they've done an artistic kind of revamp of it. Like the color grading is all different now. Very, very attractive game. But during the story mode, you're the Vikings. It's a big storm you battle, and you're sieging this Japanese castle. Or I don't want to say Japanese, but it's samurai, right? Because I don't think they're called Japanese. Okay. They're just called the samurai, the knights, and the Vikings, to avoid like parody or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I was this Viking like attacking this giant cool wooden castle in this dark rainstorm. And I just found myself like just getting immersed in the sights and sounds, just like wanting to like cuddle into a little corner and just sit and soak in the vibes in my own little nook and just listen to the rain outside, like pitter pattering on the roof tiles and on the wooden railings and stuff, and just kind of breathing in that, like, I don't know, that hardwood floor smell, you know? But of course I had to get back to business and kill the warlords or whatever. But like, that's the vibe I want. And I think a remake of Onimusha would really fulfill that fantasy for me. Just being in a cozy Japanese castle and I don't know, just in a horror setting.
For sure. I hate to do this. We got to wrap because
that's okay.
my son
No,
is
we've been
banging
going
on
for
the
too
door
long.
and I need to. Yeah, the technical issues were tough. But no, I think it'd be really cool. It'd be cool to have like a lo-fi beats to chill and play Onimusha 2 or something as part of their remakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Sorry that your topic got a little bit scuffed here.
No, it's meant to be. I mean, it's cursed. It was a cursed topic, so it's fine. But yeah, this has been Story Players, and I have been Winston Powell. You can follow me at AcornBringer on social media, and you can check out Of Love and Eternity on Steam and Itch. And the host I'm taking the role of was Zach. If you want to plug anything, go ahead. But I understand if you want to run.
For sure. Yeah, you can find me at Zachary Snader or Zulu Zach. I'm Zulu Zach QC. You can also, I kind of redid our website. It's wildkind.gg. If you want to hit me up, I would love to talk with you about video games or game development or sports video games in particular, if that's of interest. So, yeah. Thanks, buddy.
Awesome.
This has been
Thanks
fun
a lot,
despite
man.
all the craziness. I appreciate you, man.
It's been great. No, it's all part of the haunted, cursed episode.
Yes, indeed. All right.
All right, man. I'll talk to you next week probably.
Okay.
So take care.